I want you to have a young people's circus in your community all the time. I mean that, circus for kids, like every day. Jumping, spinning, twirling, juggling, clowning kids. I will explain, but first let me say that my town has had a youth circus for decades, and I think you would want one too if you knew how magical and powerful this is. What do I mean by circus for kids? I'm talking about an activity program in which children and teenagers and some adults learn to develop physical and performing skills in the circus arts. They do this after school, on weekends, and maybe during summer camps. They learn to stand on their hands, juggle 3 balls, do backflips and cartwheels. And they put those skills together into an act, put the acts together into a show, and put on a show for audiences who are wowed. In their time in circus, young people are on a path to developing physical literacy. What do I mean by that, physical literacy? Well, take our definition of literacy, our basic definition. It's about having competence, capabilities and skills, as well as confidence, a lack of fear with the written word. Transfer that concept to your body. Physical literacy is the idea of having competence and confidence with our own bodies. Physical literacy. Do you, at this very moment, have as much competence and confidence with your body as you might like to have? Hold that thought. As I started to talk about a circus, you probably began to envision in your mind different kinds of circus performers in action. Maybe some unicyclists or some jugglers or some clowns or some trapeze artists. That's exactly what I wanted you to do. But what I want you to do next is to imagine your 10-year-old self in those circus performers' bodies. How do you feel as a 10-year-old juggler or a 10-year-old trapeze artist? Pretty fine. Do you want to show off? All kids need to show off. In the circus, showing off is based on skills that young people have developed in tandem. Showing off is not about pushing somebody else into the background. In circus, showing off is a very cooperative endeavor. Everybody in a circus act or in a circus class gets to show off together as a team. One teenager tells us that it was in circus that she got to make her first steps across a stage. Let me explain one more thing about that. When you think about showing off, you don't always think of it as a skill, but it is. Showing off is a skill, and it has to be developed. Another circus teenager tells us that it was in circus that he learned how to listen and to develop confidence in himself. One doesn't get to show off if one doesn't pay attention. One doesn't learn the trick if one doesn't listen. The motivations are great, and the rewards are even greater. Step back into your 10-year-old circus performer's mindset for a minute. You are walking on the high wire or riding a unicycle. Are you taking some reasonable risks? You can probably feel it. Reg Bolton, a circus educator in Australia, tells us that all kids need to have their hearts in their mouths at least once a day. You probably remember some of those vertigo moments of your own childhood. Maybe when you jumped out of the swing, or when you were riding your bike hands-free down a steep hill, or when you took your skateboard off a particularly challenging ledge. Some children, when they don't have opportunities for vertigo moments, will look for them elsewhere. They'll experiment with drugs or alcohol, maybe street racing or unprotected sex. We are all too familiar with the results of those risky behaviors. I prefer to offer our young people an opportunity for vertigo moments in a circus setting. What can go wrong if you are taking reasonable risks within a circus? Circus, by definition, involves at least the illusion of risk. If you have worked hard to develop your body as well as your performing skills, then you already know how to avoid falls in the first place. And you know how to avoid injury if you do fall. You are mitigating the risks that you take through your own developing skills. And risks in circus are also mitigated because of teamwork and because of spotting techniques. You spot others, and others spot you safely and correctly. Let me show you what I mean. If you were assigned to spot someone on an aerial act, you would keep your eyes on their hands, up there where they are grabbing the trapeze or holding on to somebody else's wrist. You want to see the instant that their fingers let go because you want to be there to catch them before they hit the ground. You see how important that information is to a circus? In the circus, there is an important and valuable give and take. The entire circus is responsible for mitigating the risks of every circus performer. You spot others, they spot you. Every young circus performer knows that his or her entire circus family is there to catch him or her if they should fall. Back to your childhood circus self for a minute. This time, I want you to imagine yourself climbing up onto the backs of two kneeling performers so that you can stand with one foot on each of their backs. Someone is lying on the ground next to you, and he lifts his legs straight up into the air, puts his feet on the tummy of another child, and lifts her into an airplane position. Can these people do this without making physical connections? Of course not. In a youth circus, our young people learn how to touch each other appropriately. We are human beings. We all need to touch and be touched, but we need to do it in a way that makes sense for physical connections and to help us learn about our own bodies. In our society today, we tend to fear the human touch. As an anthropologist, I say that it is critical to our human development and to our mental health for us to touch and be touched. In a youth circus, young people are able to learn how to make touches and how to make those physical connections that matter. In circus, touch is about trust. An acrobatic pair of performers has to know exactly where each of them is putting their feet and their hands and their elbows at any second. They have communicated about how this should work based on balance and strength and the art of the act and on each other's bodies. Acrobatic performances depend upon each individual knowing where the other is putting his hands and his feet for every single acrobatic move. Circus offers children an opportunity to learn how to trust. And in fact, circus teaches the true meaning of trust. One more time, be your 10-year-old self. You are flying in the flying trapeze, or you are spinning on the German gym wheel, or you are holding a handstand for 30 seconds. Do these challenges give you an opportunity to dream? Something to dream for, something to dream about? Maybe flying higher, maybe spinning faster, maybe holding that handstand longer. Circus is a wonderful place, not just to dream, but to learn how to achieve your dreams. All kids need to dream. When our kids are in their circus classes, their circus rehearsals, and in their circus performances, they are off of their electronic devices. Their imaginations are free. They dream. They know what their own bodies can do. They know what their friends can do. And they know what they can achieve together. Think about that. You can hold a handstand for 30 seconds, or you can juggle 3 balls. What's next? Holding a handstand for a minute? Juggling 4 balls? Or juggling with 6 other players? Or possibly even learning a new skill like clowning. Circus is the perfect place to have those dreams and to learn how to achieve them. I'm not talking about pipe dreams or daydreams. I'm talking about real dreams and how to make them come true. One teenager tells us that in circus, she learned how to pursue her goals, and she learned to pay attention to the things that truly matter to her. Another circus performer tells us that it was in circus where he learned to dream big and to go after the things he wanted, no matter how difficult they are. Imagine learning to achieve your circus goals in your youth would make it possible for you to achieve other kinds of goals later in life. So Reg Bolton, that circus educator I mentioned before, he says that all kids need to show off, take risks, learn to trust by making physical connections, and to dream. If you had been a circus kid, you would have accomplished all of those things in a creative and supportive and very active circus setting. And if you had been a circus kid, do you think you might have a better relationship with your body today than you currently have? Might that knowledge that you developed about your body, about its capacities, about its limitations, but also about its potentials, might that knowledge of yourself have influenced the way you lived your life? I think it would have. I think you would have had better health. I think you would have had better posture. I think you would have been more willing to eat the foods that leave you ready for action. I think that you would have been more willing to take physical risks because you would have known how to mitigate them. And I think you would have been much more active with other people in the world around you. I would have, because when young people are able to show off, take risks, trust, and to dream, they are on a pathway to physical literacy. They are developing a deeply felt knowledge of their own bodies, what they can do, what they can do if they work to develop a skill. They also learn to pay attention to the clues that tell them that they need some more sleep, they need some more water, they need fewer French fries. They pay attention to twinges and to aches and to fatigue. And on the other hand, they are keenly aware of bursts of energy and solid muscles, and they know how to use them. Would you, your adult self, like to be better at that? It's not too late. Youth circus participation leads to the development of the whole child, one who is confident and competent in his or her body. The whole child grows into a whole adult, someone who is confident and competent with his or her body, and therefore able and capable of being involved, deeply involved with society and the rest of the world. Okay, you're looking at me and you're thinking, she does not look like a circus performer. And I am not and never was. But there are many players in the youth circus. And my claim to fame is as the ticket lady. Necessary job in a circus? Yeah. As are all the roles that people play to make a youth circus come to life. There is a place for you, no matter your age or condition. So, step into your adult mindset for a moment and think about your community. Think about the children. Think about the teens. Think about the adults of all ages. Would your community benefit from having a youth circus? I think so. if only for the opportunity to announce those circus acts as astounding, amazing, mesmerizing, marvelous, and sensational. Do you want to have a youth circus in your community yet? I know hundreds of young people who can help you understand how important it is. You can make it happen, and you too can show off. Thank you.